It's late at night. You're sitting in your living room, and your cat is frozen in place, locking its gaze on a dark, seemingly empty corner of the ceiling. You strain your eyes. You listen closely. From your perspective, there is absolutely nothing there. The space is a total void. It's the exact moment where the human mind naturally wanders toward the supernatural. You start wondering if your house has a resident ghost that only the pet can see. But there is no paranormal activity happening here. The actual explanation lies in a massive biological gap between how humans and felines process sensory input. Your cat isn't hallucinating. They are responding to a very real layer of physical reality that your eyes and ears are completely blind to. Let's strip away the creepy nighttime atmosphere and look at a normal, brightly lit living room. To us, the hardwood floors are clean and the space feels orderly, but a feline eye is built differently. Their optical biology allows them to perceive light in the ultraviolet, or UV spectrum. This chart shows the band of visible light humans can detect, but look at the feline visual range. It stretches far to the left, absorbing high-energy UV wavelengths that our eyes physically cannot register. That expanded vision turns a seemingly clean environment into a glowing map. Biological markers that are invisible to us, like dried urine trails from mice or other pets, light up like neon to a feline. Even common household objects, like decorative flowers, possess hidden UV patterns on their petals, acting as high-contrast signals to an animal that can see them. So when your cat is transfixed by a seemingly blank wall or empty stretch of floor, they are actively reading a rich, illuminated map of environmental data. The same disparity exists with sound. You might experience a room as completely quiet and peaceful. This chart compares auditory limits. Humans detect up to 20,000 hertz, while a cat's capacity spikes to 64,000 hertz. In that extreme high frequency range, insect movements behind drywall become clear audio. They also hear the continuous ultrasonic whine of electronics. When a cat locks its eyes onto a random patch of drywall, it isn't looking at anything at all. It is using its directional ears to triangulate the exact spatial coordinates of an ultrasonic sound. What you experience as deafening silence is to them a chaotic, high-volume auditory landscape. Combine that glowing ultraviolet vision with radar-like ultrasonic hearing, and that eerie late-night staring contest makes perfect sense. You and your cat occupy the exact same physical living room, but you exist within entirely disconnected sensory realities. Their intense focus on a dark corner is the hyper-awareness of a finely tuned predator. They are successfully processing vast amounts of environmental input that bypasses your biology. The void they are staring into is loud, bright, and teeming with physical reality. You simply lack the hardware to join them in it. Now, I want to hear your stories. Drop a comment below with the most bizarre thing or place you've ever caught your cat staring at. You are sleeping soundly. Suddenly, the silence is shattered by the sound of 20 tiny, frantic footsteps tearing down the hallway. It always seems to happen at exactly 3 a.m., right when you hit your deepest REM cycle, making it feel like a calculated disruption of your rest. But as personal as it feels, your cat isn't plotting against you. There is no malicious intent behind this midnight track meet. What you are actually hearing is a highly predictable, biologically hardwired event. Shifting our view of the midnight zoomie from a domestic nuisance to a scientifically quantifiable event is the first step in understanding why these bursts occur. Cats are crepuscular predators. Their bodies evolved for hunting at dawn and dusk, relying on short, explosive bursts of speed rather than sustained endurance. When that explosive energy is released all at once, scientists define the behavior as a frenetic random activity period, or a FRAP. This timeline shows how that pressure accumulates. If an indoor cat lacks stimulation during the day, their unspent kinetic energy bottles up. By nightfall, that internal capacity reaches its limit, demanding a sudden release. Curious, the specific catalyst that triggers the explosion is often as mundane as a midnight trip to the litter box. Emptying the bowels provides physical relief, stimulating the vagus nerve and creating a sudden wave of euphoria. Alternatively, if your cat experiences mild stomach discomfort, That sprint acts as an instinctual escape response, attempting to outrun the sensation of indigestion. Authoritative. The 3 a.m. sprint is either a biological victory lap or an involuntary flight from discomfort. In either case, the behavior is dictated by internal physical pressure rather than conscious choice. Once we recognize the biology, we can intervene in the cat's daily routine to manage their energy budget. The first step involves implementing high-intensity, short-burst play routines during the late morning or early afternoon. Expending energy while the sun is up encourages deeper daytime sleep. This prevents them from hoarding 100% of their kinetic potential for the middle of the night. Then you wind them down with a specific evening routine designed to mimic the wild, the hunt, catch, kill, eat sequence. This begins with 15 minutes of focused play using a wand toy, right before you plan to go to sleep. This flowchart outlines the crucial final step. Following the kill phase of the play session, you immediately provide a small meal. Digesting that food chemically triggers their natural post-hunt rest phase. By actively balancing their energy economy through these timed interventions, you proactively diffuse the midnight biological explosion before it ever happens. The next time you are jolted awake at 3 a.m. by a furry blur rocketing past your bedroom door, the perspective changes from annoyance to an enlightened sense of amusement. Those thundering paws are simply the sound of a tiny predator venting millions of years of evolutionary predatory energy mixed with bathroom euphoria. Understanding the science of fraps replaces frustration with an empathetic look at how feline bodies function. Our greatest domestic frustrations are often just misunderstood moments of scientific wonder that clarify why our pets act the way they do. We want to hear about your most chaotic wake-up calls. Share your funniest 3 a.m. zoonie stories in the comments below. You're gently stroking your relaxed, purring cat on the couch. Then, without warning, they whip their head around and clamp their teeth onto your hand. It feels like a sudden betrayal, but the reality is strictly biological. You broke a rule you didn't even realize existed. To fix this, we need to map your cat's specific neurological threshold for touch and establish a clear protocol that prevents petting-induced aggression. Step 1 is setting up the right environment. Wait until your cat is resting in a quiet room with no distractions, so you can observe the subtle physical micro-movements they make. Shifting your focus from an emotional reaction to an observation of biological cues is the first step toward a bite-free relationship. Let's look at the biology of the feline coat. A cat's hair follicles are attached to an exceptionally dense network of sensitive nerve endings. Initial strokes register as a pleasurable massage, keeping nerve receptors resting in a green zone. But as friction continues, receptors become irritated. The internal gauge fills up, glowing red. The sensation turns into a painful buildup of static electricity. The heavier and faster your hand moves, the faster you accelerate this nerve irritation. The resulting bite is a purely physical reflex to that neurological overload. To stop the biting, you have to adapt your technique to match their internal timer. To find that timer, initiate a slow, gentle petting session. But instead of looking at their face, shift your visual focus entirely to the back half of their body. The first and most obvious warning sign appears in the tail. Watch for a sharp, sudden flick or a rhythmic thumping against the couch. Never mistake a thumping cat tail for a happy dog wag. In feline body language, a thumping tail is a direct request for space. The second visual cue happens right on the skin. Watch closely along the cat's spine for a rapid rippling or twitching motion in the fur. The third, more subtle cue happens at the top of the head. Look for the ears rotating to the side or flattening backward against the skull. These physical cues are generous warnings. By watching for them, you turn what feels like an unpredictable attack into a highly predictable, manageable event. Even without warning signs, you must actively test your cat's capacity for continued touch. We do this using a mandatory checkpoint, the pause and consent protocol. Here is how you execute it. Stroke your cat exactly 3 times down the back. Then deliberately stop and float your hand about 1 inch away from their fur. This split-screen graphic illustrates the outcomes. A clear yes is on the left. The cat actively leans up into your hovering hand, requesting contact. A no is shown on the right. The cat looks away, lies perfectly still, or completely ignores your hovering hand. The absence of a proactive yes is an explicit boundary. Respecting that passive stillness is how you master feline consent. Spotting a twitching tail, a rippling spine, or a failed consent test means you must immediately stop all physical contact. Owners often make a critical mistake right at this exact moment. They nervously jerk their hand away in fear. A rapid darting motion triggers the cat's instinctual prey drive, provoking the exact strike you are trying to avoid. Instead, withdraw your hands slowly and deliberately. Pull back with a smooth motion and calmly rest your hands in your lap. Stopping calmly proves to your cat that their physical boundaries are respected. Over time, this consistency replaces their anxiety with deep emotional security. By mapping your cat's touch threshold and executing the consent protocol, petting remains a positive experience. Take a look at this illustration. Respecting these boundaries creates a space where a cat can relax near you without fear of overstimulation. When a cat chooses to rest on the same sofa without the pressure of touch, it shows they feel safe in your presence. The next time your cat joins you, observe them closely. Identify their primary warning sign: a tail flick, a skin ripple, or a flattened ear. Prioritizing your cat's biological boundaries over your own desire for touch builds a relationship rooted in mutual understanding. When you respect their biology, you secure a lifelong, trusting companionship.